Welcome to the Y Connect podcast. As the heartbeat of the community, the Y is a connector where people of all ages and walks of life come together to elevate their health, wellness, education, and essential life skills. Hear the stories of impact and join the authentic conversations where together we'll discover the journeys and pathways people take to connect through the Y. Now your hosts, Zarinah, Robert, and Allison.
Hello, hello, hello.
Happy hump day.
Or whatever day you're listening.
Day it is, yeah.
That's right.
True. Whatever day it is.
Let me tell you, every day feels like a hump day sometimes.
Sometimes we just get lost in the mix. Sometimes we just get lost in the mix.
It's good to see you guys.
It really
Good
is.
to see you guys too.
It really is. Feels like it's been a minute.
It
It
has.
has been a minute, for sure.
And summer is, heating up. It just continues to heat up. Lots of activity,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah,
Literally
definitely.
and figuratively. Yes. Yes. It's been fun. It's been fun. Really no complaints. The kiddos are absolutely keeping us busy. Keeping a lot of smiles on our faces, and we can go home and torment ourselves however we want to torment ourselves. But when we come back with smiles on our faces.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I love that. I've been meeting a lot of my new parents that's been coming in to enroll.
Yeah.
So we're
cool.
getting a sneak peek of what's to come.
That's fantastic. Love that.
Yeah.
And you are only a few weeks away from school starting.
That's right.
What's just remarkable how fast summer
really
goes
is.
August
True.
1st, summer's gone for me.
Truly.
Well, we have a really special episode today, don't we?
And I'm super excited about it. And today is episode 44. And the title of our episode
Amazing.
is, already 44.
Amazing.
It is titled Forsyth County YMCA hosts Juneteenth celebration and honors descendants. Now, let's delve into a story of resilience, reconciliation, and community spirit. Forsyth County, with its complex history, is making strides towards healing and inclusivity. We'll be speaking with Durwood Sneed, an organizer of Forsyth Descendants Scholarship, a pivotal initiative aimed at honoring and supporting the descendants of those who were unjustly expelled from the county. A racial cleansing campaign in 1912 that forced Black residents out of the county, keeping it virtually all white for the next 75 years. Additionally, we are joined by Joshua Byrd, a descendant who had bravely returned to Forsyth County and shared his inspiring journey during the recent Juneteenth celebration hosted by the Forsyth County Family YMCA. This was the second year in a row the Y's Caroline Del Carmen organized this community-wide event. To get us started, let's watch and listen to a clip of Joshua's powerful remarks from the event.
The question that I wrestled with when making a decision to move back here was, how do you reconcile the thoughts? How do you deal with the history that's ugly, that's nasty? Your family and other families being forced out under the threat of death, leaving every single thing that you know, all that you've worked for, all that you've owned, only taking with you what you could carry. How do you reconcile those thoughts? How do you come back to a place that has rejected you, that has torn you away from everything you know and forced you to uproot and to go live and go be in different places and try to make a life out of nothing? And the answer to that question is that you do it with courage, and you do it with a belief in change. And I'm standing here today because I had enough courage to take a chance to be willing to see what Forsyth was really about. And I'm extremely, extremely excited to be here during this time. One, representing my family and my ancestors and those that came before me, but to see the change that's taking place. Like I said, I never would have thought in a million years we'd have an event like this. We celebrate in Juneteenth in Forsyth County. There is the awesome Forsyth Descendants Scholarship Fund that's creating change. I think they named the elementary school New Hope, which is named after the largest Black elementary school that was here in Forsyth County prior to the expulsion. So seeing that change, like I said, it warms my heart. It gives me hope and belief that, change is possible. And, I challenge each and every one of you to be the change that we want to see, continue to be a loving community, get to know the people around you. I would even encourage you to make friends, go learn something from somebody else. We have far more in common than we do that separates us. And like I said, I'm blessed. I'm fortunate. I feel grateful now to say that I live here in this county. I'm even advocating for more people to come, come live here, come experience this. Durwood Sneed always says he wants Forsyth County, once named by Oprah as the most hateful county, to be known as the most loving county. And I couldn't agree with that even more. And like I said, I challenge each and every one of you that are here today supporting this cause, supporting Forsyth County, to help make that possible, help make that a reality.
So I'm going to go ahead and ask the first question. And this one is for Joshua. Thank you for coming here, for sharing your story. Your bravery is so inspiring. Could you share what motivated you to come back to Forsyth County in 2018, making it your home again?
So I think that's a great question. The motivation was really simple. I was looking for a quality place to live. I was actually looking for a place where I would feel comfortable raising a family, a place that, as you've heard me say, has great schools, great community, great property taxes, and just good people. And for me, that was a bit of a struggle. However, I spoke with some good friends, and they kind of gave me the push to take a chance and decide to return. And so I am happy that I have so far. It's been nothing but positive things that I can speak about it. I even advocate now for people to kind of return, but it was definitely something that I wrestled with in the initial process. And that's just given my family's history. And I decided, hey, why not, take the first step, see if some change is actually taking place. And, so far it looks like the county is making strides to change the perception. And I think the heart of the community and the people that live here are changing as well.
Josh, as I was at the event and I heard you speak, you touched on your Strickland family ancestors. And I think our listeners and all of us here would love to hear, if we could, more about your family. Would you mind sharing their experience with us?
Absolutely. So I want to say this is probably maybe 5 or 6 generations back. I want to call her my grandmother, Rosalie Brown, was living here in Forsyth County with her family and siblings up until roughly about 1912 when everything happened. And, the Black families were evicted from Forsyth, and they later ended up moving the family to the Alpharetta area for just a little bit. My great grandfather, Russell Strickland, they married, and they ultimately ended up settling in Roswell, and they raised kids in Roswell. And so I actually grew up in Roswell, which is, a few minutes down the road from Forsyth. But I never returned to Forsyth until I think I was maybe 32, 33 years old, just because the stigma, the reputation, everything I'd heard growing up as a child, like, hey, you steer clear of Forsyth County. You don't go anywhere near it. Don't be around it. If you absolutely must for, some strange reason, then you make sure that you're out of there before the sun goes down. It was very clear to me that it was unwelcome. And so it's one of those things that that was passed throughout the family. And like I said, my family was able to move to the Roswell area, and we set up, and my family still lives there. A good portion of my family lives there now. I still have some family that lives in Alpharetta as well, and then some family that actually moved out to the Marietta area.
Do your family members who live in Marietta and Roswell come visit you?
Yes, I do get family that does come visit me. So when I made the decision to move to Forsyth, let me say this. When I made that decision, I got family on both sides, mom's side and dad's side. And it's known throughout the community within Roswell, because a lot of the families that left Forsyth actually were very close knit, so the sense of community stayed with us, which is a great thing. And a lot of families kind of stayed in similar areas and kept in contact. So the messaging around, hey, everybody understanding what took place in Forsyth and not returning to Forsyth was clear across the board. Now, that being said, when I decided to move to Forsyth, I knew I was taking a chance. I knew I was taking a risk. It was something that, for the most part, I was a little on edge about. However, my family was really, really excited. Oh man, the news is spreading around the family. Hey, Josh has just bought a home, and the older people in the family started planning. Hey, the next family gathering that we have, let's have it at Josh's house. Let's break Josh's place in. Let's have it there. And what no one knew was that I was living in Cumming, and people started saying, hey, okay, we're having this at Josh's place, but nobody knows where Josh lives. So text messages come in. Hey, what's your address? I send the address out, and immediately I got phone calls. I didn't get text messages. I got phone calls. Hey, man, this says Cumming. Like, you live in Forsyth? Like, what's going on? I didn't know you lived here. And so immediately that reservation sprung up for a lot of my family members. And after a little coaxing, after talking a little bit, a good portion of my family did come, and, we celebrated and had a good holiday turnout at my house. Some people chose not to. They just didn't feel comfortable. And that's something that I understand. What I would say is I'm glad that I do live here now, because it has absolutely given my family members, I guess, a sense of comfort, knowing that I haven't had any issues. I haven't had any challenges. And hopefully that encourages more family to, one, stop by, but even, consider maybe moving back and coming back to this community that we once called home.
That's great.
It's an amazing background story. I came down here in 1988 to attend Morehouse, and my first knowledge of Forsyth County, there was a KKK parade, or whatever you want to call it, in that area. And so many of my classmates, many of the students within the AUC, Atlanta University Center, traveled up to Forsyth County in protest of the KKK march. And again, coming from New York, I knew about Stone Mountain. I knew nothing about Forsyth. I did not attend the rally. I did not attend the protest, but it made the news and it made the paper. And so many of the personal reports that I received back from, classmates was just a heightened sense of self-worth and understanding where we were, because many of the classmates were from DC, Detroit, LA. So none of us were from Georgia. So it was truly a history lesson in the making at that moment. But Caroline, I really want to commend you on your leadership in organizing this Juneteenth celebration in Forsyth County community for the last 2 years. And if you can just share that experience of what it's been like organizing that and just what it's been like implementing it.
It has been first, I love organizing events, but mostly events that have a purpose and that really bring something to what it is that, we do as people every day, and what things that mean something to all of us. And so working at the Y as long as I have, and in my background, has been that this was an easy thing to come to my mind. Like, why don't we have this? The biggest thing was that I recognized that the only place that you could celebrate Juneteenth was in Atlanta. And everybody knows, well, that's from around here, that we are a good distance from the city center of Atlanta. Some people seem to think they're coming to Chattanooga when they have to come see us, but we're really not that far. But anyway, and so we were trying, the big thing was a man came to me, John Dole, who is a community member and businessman here in town, 6 weeks before Juneteenth, and said, "Hey, Caroline, I want to have a Juneteenth event. Would you mind hosting it?" Well, it wasn't actually my decision, but I made the decision on the spot and said, "Yes, I'll do it." And hoping that I wouldn't get in too much trouble. And so we just started, and we went around and he asked folks from in his circles for money to help us, get it started and what we were doing. We went to the chamber and got their list of businesses of African American and Black people's own businesses, and then and minority businesses. And so we just started asking around, and we got a lot of pushback. It was challenging. We got a lot of let's just wait and see answers, and so we just decided, no matter what it was going to look like, if one booth showed up or if 25 showed up, we were going to make this happen. And thanks to all of our sponsors that said yes, because most of them came back this year and more. So, but it was very challenging people just were kind of, I don't want to use the word scared, but they were very, they just didn't want to push too hard, because, you don't want to make other people uncomfortable. So, but the history is important. Durwood and I have had these conversations over and over again. But the history is what's most important. And the reason it is most important is because we don't want to repeat it. And we want to make our community better for everybody. And my thought has always been that if you know somebody that doesn't look like you or is like you, it's really hard to hate them if you know them. So why don't you just put yourself in that position and take a chance? All of us have lots to offer. All of you that are from the Y, you know that and Durwood and Josh, I know too, you are a business to the public face. Is that everything we do out there, we meet new people, we learn new things, and the more we do that, the better we are, and the better we are as a community.
I'd like to ask a follow-up question. You use the term fear, and I know you said that, for lack of a better term, but I do wonder, and I guess this is a question for all three, if fear played in any apprehension to either move back, to either participate in the event, or in any of the decision making for the kind of developing the activity or in your engagement with anybody else.
For me, fear was never a part of it. It was something I knew I had to do. Once it was presented to me, I knew we had to do it. And the fear was more from community members that did not want to have I don't want to say they didn't want to have anything to do with it, but they wanted to see what our response would be. So before they engaged.
Durwood, Joshua, you want to take a stab at it? Did fear play in any of decision making that either you made or that any of your constituents made in terms of participating in events or just being part of your movement?
We worked hard in the beginning to try to allay some fears because a lot of movements were going on around the time we got the scholarship started, which was just in 2022. And so we were trying to be careful on both sides to play the middle to help people understand, first of all, in the Black community that we know this is not justice. This is not making things right. It's not a reckoning. It's simply an act of love. And we think it's better to do something than to do nothing. And then for some of our more conservative white friends, we were also careful to tell them this is not part of anything else. And we're not making any comments about any other movement, whatever that is. But this is just not part of anything else. It's its own thing here in this county. And it's here to acknowledge that an injustice was done. And it's here to really try to help do something for descendants of those people that were treated so badly and have suffered. And simply an act of love around that. But, there was some fear, again, just kind of like Caroline mentioned, by community members saying, I'm just not sure. We had even a couple of churches that said, well, let's just wait and see how it goes the first year. And so one of the things that's encouraging to me is that I feel like it's taken us about 2.5 years to break into the mainstream of the county, where people were not any longer afraid that this might be some kind of a radical movement in their mind, that, that could be something that could hurt their business, could hurt their church, or hurt their reputation around all that.
For me, I would say that the only reservation I had was the initial reservation about moving to Forsyth County. As far as participating in any activities, I was actually excited when I heard that Forsyth County decided to have a Juneteenth. It was mind blowing because I'm thinking to myself, this is Forsyth County. I can't believe this, So it was a milestone for me, and even more surprising when I was told this was the second annual, festival that they had, celebration that they had. And so hats off to Caroline for, organizing it, Allison and other people that, came together, John Doyle for, having the heart to say, hey, you know what, we're going to move on this. We're going to act on this because it was really refreshing to me to see it. And as a Black person in this community, as a descendant, I think it was really powerful. One, just to see that, hey, I'm not by myself. There are other Black people here. There are other good people here, because it wasn't just Black people at the event. There were a mix of people, and it was just good to see, and people came out with love and support. So that was actually wonderful.
Love that.
Good. Very good. So, Durwood, let's talk about the work that you and others have done to establish the Forsyth Descendants Scholarship. Can you tell us about the initiative and the impact that it's making in the community?
Sure. Thank you. My story is that I lived here, or have lived here in the county now for 35 years. And it wasn't until about 5 years ago that I learned the story of what happened in 1912 and afterward. I moved here in 1989, so 2 years after the two Brotherhood marches and after Oprah Winfrey came to the county, and rightfully so called it the most racist county in America. So I went to the guy that was building my house, because I bought land here, and I said, hey, I didn't know anything about all this stuff. Are we moving to the wrong place? And he said, oh, no, we want Black people to move here. Everything's okay. But to my shame, it wasn't until 5 years ago that I actually learned what happened here. And I actually was going to launch my little fishing boat up at Lake Lanier, and I went through a little place on the side of Brown Church Road that said Oscarville Way. And there must have been a town named Oscarville here at some point. So I Googled it, and then suddenly discovered all these events of 1912 where a 18-year-old white girl was raped and assaulted in Oscarville. Several black people were arrested on her street in Oscarville. And then that kind of was the impetus to start this huge movement that resulted in all the black people being expelled. And quite frankly, when I read about these black families having to leave immediately and to go somewhere where no one wanted them, I mean, tears came to my eyes. I remember just imagining what it would be like to be a black man here in 1912. And I just was driven away from my house. Maybe I owned land, as 58 families did, and then had to go somewhere, and I didn't know where I was going to go, and nobody wanted me, and it was awful. And so I got together with some friends of mine. I'm actually a retired pastor, so I met with the Forsyth County Ministerial Association, which I'm a part of. We all began talking and saying, did you guys know about this? And no one did. And as we began talking about it, we said, we feel like we need to do something, but we want to do something helpful, something to acknowledge the past, but also do something helpful to the future for, a lot of these people and families who are so affected. So we launched the scholarship in 2022. This is our third year. We're making awards. We just made the announcement to the recipients last week, and we're distributing the money next week for the third year. And it's been up over $200,000. And the cool thing, I think, for the community is it's just opened a lot of conversation. There have been so many people that, as they've heard this story and they began reading and researching, and everyone knows none of us were alive when any of this happened. But it happened here. It happened on this land, right? And I feel like there's a lot of people in the community saying, wow, we're living on a place where some momentous events occurred and some very big injustices were done. And I think it's really cool. There's just been a lot of discussions around reconciliation. How do we avoid these things for the future? A lot of discussions around how do we talk to people that we don't know? We had a golf tournament in May. That was our first fundraiser. And I was so encouraged because the mayor was there. The head of the county commission was there, who's a person of color, who's South Asian. And the head of the school system, both the exiting and the incoming head of school systems were there. And I mean, the YMCA was a big supporter. Caroline was there even serving with us. And it was just really neat to see that no longer is this something that is out there on the fringes, but we've got everybody, even in high places, talking about it. And I know Josh knows I've talked about this a lot, but the vision I think we've got is that the place that was known for hatred will be known in the future for love. So if we were called the most racist county in America in 1987, our vision and dream is that Forsyth County, Georgia would be known all over the world as a county known for love at some point in the near future. And I feel like we've made a lot of progress. Like Josh said, it's a great place to live. I love it. I've raised 5 children here. And at the same time, we've got a ways to go. We know that. But I just think that would be such a cool thing. And so it's a redemption story, right? Of taking what was very evil that occurred here and over time acknowledging it and then moving forward. And the fascinating thing, too, is that some of the people in authority in the county, were concerned about bringing up stuff that might hurt the reputation of the county until we tried to help them understand that, guys, this is known. This is not something that we can hide. I mean, you talk to any black brother or sister, they know this story, not just in Georgia. It's known now around the United States and many places around the world. So the best thing to do is just let's shine the light on it. It happened. We weren't here, but it happened. It was very evil. And then let's acknowledge it, try to figure out what happened and why, and what can we do to avoid something like this in the future.
Joshua, as you hear Durwood talk about that and the scholarship program, I would love to know what it means to you and perhaps your family.
So, as Durwood said, it's a great act of love. We accept it. We love it. I was thrilled to see it come forth. And as Durwood stated earlier, the scholarship has actually gotten the conversation ball rolling. And so being able to have conversations, being able to talk about it for my family is powerful because it brings a sense of acknowledgement. And it gives me a sense that maybe some restoration can begin to take place, reconciliation. And I think that all starts with the acknowledgement of what took place. And I know that as horrible as it was, as traumatic as it was, it's one of those things that we have to deal with. It's one of those things that the public perception of Forsyth County is tainted as a result of it. But with this act of love, it begins the process of showing people around the country that we are moving in a different direction, that the hearts of the people in the community have begun to change, and that, there's hope and there's courage for future progress in Forsyth County. So my family is definitely excited about it. I got lots of relatives that will definitely be taking advantage of it.
That's great.
Thank you.
Durwood, you spoke very eloquently about the support the local support that you're receiving, individuals and organizations within Forsyth County and beyond. Can you just expound on that just a little bit more, just in terms of how their support is affecting not only the bottom line in the money received for scholarships, but just in terms of how their support is changing that image that you were referring to?
Good point. I had a discussion with one official who is also a person of color that told me that it was the African American community here that really began piercing the way and paving the way for the South Asian community to prosper in this county. I thought that was a pretty powerful statement and really kind of a cool thing that he's acknowledging that. In fact, he's actually the head of our county commission. And he said, there's no way I'd be head of this county commission if Black people hadn't paved the way before me to do that. So as a person of color, I can do this. I feel like, too, that that even as we think about the school system, I know that with Jeff Bearden, who is just retiring from the school system as a superintendent, and with Mitch Young coming in, they both feel like this is an opportunity also for them to talk about their philosophy of education and acceptance, and that in our school system, everyone is welcome. Everyone is on even footing, and they want everyone to succeed. And they're just being very, very open about that. But it's really neat to have them come alongside us and make those statements. In fact, one of the schools in the county is called New Hope Elementary School. It's the newest elementary school, opened 2 years ago. And it's named after a Black school that was here just prior to 1940. It's a demonstrable step that they've taken to show and to demonstrate to everyone that, hey, we want to remember really what happened here. And our school is actually named in honor of one of these Black schools that was there.
As I think, as you were speaking, I'm sitting here thinking of other states, and not to be political in any way, but, just think about critical race theory. And what you're describing is exactly what we've, as a man of color and a person who believes that all history is important, that what you're doing right now is exactly what is being asked to be done in other states. Share the history as it happened, similar to the race riots in Tulsa, Oklahoma, similar to the race riots in Watts in California and Detroit and things of that nature. It's part of our history. And the fact that you are able to speak eloquently about it, meet about it, meetings on the minds about it. Schools are the foundations of schools are being made and built around it. That's something to be commended. That's truly something to be commended.
I really do believe truth sets people free. We lay everything on the table. It's the only way anything gets resolved. is everything needs to be laid on the table in terms of, hey, here's what happened. Let's look at all the reasons for it. And the media and politicians spin it. Obviously, media spins it to create tension so there's more readership. In politics, it's spun so people can get elected. And I feel like with the divisiveness that we have overall throughout, that has been spurred on by a lot of different forces around us, that anything we can do to lay all the truth on the table, let's have a conversation about it. And I think several people have mentioned, and I know Josh actually demonstrated this by he and a few other friends getting together with some white friends that were super conservative country boys here early on when he moved here. And they just had some discussions and had gut discussions around a meal table over and over and over again and got to know and love each other, right? And to me, that's the goal. If we could just sit down and have a conversation, because I've been, the mission work I've done, I've been to a lot of places. I've been to over 70 countries, and I've never met anybody in the world that I can't sit down over a cup of coffee, a tea, or a meal and talk about our families and we can't become friends, no matter what we believe. Because 98% of what everybody in the world wants is the same thing. We want to live in peace. We want to have a good life. We want our kids to have a better life than we do. No matter what religion, background, or anything, everybody wants the same thing. And we have different ideas in the ways that we approach it, right? But it is hard, like has been said a couple of times here, to really be too critical of someone when you know them, when they're a friend. And then you've got an opportunity, too, when you don't understand something or something, you feel like you're threatened by something, to go to them and say, I don't understand something, and this is kind of threatening to me. Can we just talk about this and have a private conversation and talk through it? And typically we can say, oh, that's what you're thinking. I got it. Okay. Because so much of it, I feel like, is misunderstanding. In 1912, almost everything that was happening, there was a misunderstanding. I mean, you had black ministers meeting at a campground, and people in downtown Cumming were thinking that they were actually determined to blow up the city. And so they thought they were meeting to put plans together to blow the city up. And they sent a delegation to come to downtown Cumming to tell them, no, we're not doing that. And everybody told them, no, you better go home because they think you're coming in to blow the city up, right? And so you have one group that's threatened by another group, and then they dehumanize them, and then they're capable of almost anything, but it starts with fear. And I've watched that around the world. I've seen it in Rwanda. I've seen it in Bosnia, where it starts with fear. But if you've got a relationship and you can go to somebody and say, look, I'm hearing this. What's really going on? Let's have a conversation about, this is their camp meeting. They do it every summer. They're not even talking about you guys. They're praying, and preaching and all those kind of things. But it's those conversations, I think, that really solve things. And then the truth thing of getting it all out there so we can just understand. And that's where the solutions, I feel like, come from, too, is when everything's on the table, then we can figure out, okay, what's a good solution to this? Let's forget the politics, media, just throw all that out for a little bit. Let's try to figure out how to solve a problem, right, that we've got together.
Wow. Well, so my question is for Caroline. Caroline, as you reflect on this year's Juneteenth celebration, can you tell us what plans you have for the future celebrations?
So the great thing about doing this is I have gotten to meet so many different people. And through the help of Allison at the Metro office and connections through that, the conversations have just gotten bigger and bigger, and they kind of broad back out. So the celebration is going to get better every year. And it is a true celebration of community and of history and of what we have to look forward to in the future with all of our children and everybody in this surrounding area, not just Forsyth County. So I just have plans to make it better. And so I'm going and working with some other communities that have already done it and have done it well, Juneteenth, that is, and other celebrations too that we have started, like Martin Luther King's birthday celebration. We did our a first one. Well, it was the first good one that we did this past year, and so it's just really exciting to be a part of that and to meet collaborators and partners that are now friends. in the community with Durwood and Adrian, and now Josh, that we get to meet and do these things and have these conversations and kind of hook each other up with different conversations to have. And that's how we got here to this podcast. So to answer, I won't answer your question specifically, but we are, I have definitely dove deeper into this rabbit hole and finding different ways to include even more people in our celebration. So
Awesome.
Caroline, I'll never forget the email that you sent our CEO, and she looped me in on the conversation because you reached out to her and essentially asking the question, do you have any connections to Oprah? But I have no doubt, Caroline, that Oprah will be coming to a Juneteenth celebration in Forsyth County someday. So it's a full circle moment. And I want to echo Robert and Zarinah and just tell you how much I look up to you and you inspire me, Caroline. When we started talking about your celebration, I was just really, really blown away by your dedication. And it was just a privilege to be a small part of it. So can't wait to help you with next year's celebration.
Thank you. It's honestly been fun. It's a lot of fun.
So I have the final question. So in every episode that we do with Y Connect, we like to ask our guests about their why story, their pathway to the why story, if you have one. In other words, how did you first get connected to the YMCA in your life? And we can start with, how about Durwood? Because we had a little preview before we got started.
Yeah. So my first connection was in Richmond, Virginia at the downtown Y, playing handball. And it was a neat place. I loved it. I played there for about 2 years and met a lot of great people, a lot of great partners there, and just really enjoyed it. But in Forsyth County, the connection was with Caroline and Alex Solomon. And so I kept running into them, and we just began having lots of discussions and realized that we had similar hearts about a lot of things. And I feel like, Caroline is just incredible in terms of her leadership there. And then Alex is this behind the scenes. I call him the mayor of the YMCA in Cumming. He's kind of behind the scenes, meeting with people all over the place and making things happen. So the two of them have just been a huge help and encouragement to all of us that are working with the scholarship. And like Caroline, I mentioned too, it's just so cool to see how they have looped into the Chamber of Commerce, the school system, and all these other groups in the county. And so I feel like we've got this great working relationship now between a lot of people that are doing different, diverse things in the county, but all feel strongly about this movement of racial reconciliation.
Fantastic. Caroline, you want to share yours? I know you've been on this podcast before, so this is a second appearance for you.
Yes. My why story truly begins. The why, I've always known about the why, but my story begins in Montgomery, Alabama. My children were able to take part in swimming because I had 3 children. I just quit working to stay at home, and I thought I had lost my mind. And so I went to the Y, and they says, well, if you volunteer, we can, at that time in Montgomery, you could get, so I volunteered as much as they would let me so that they could let me have that membership and take care of these children for me. But yeah, that's literally how it all started. And then they asked me to work, and now y'all are all still stuck with me. So,
we're blessed for it.
It has been a journey. So for sure.
And you've had multiple roles in the Y as well.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
And how about you, Josh?
My Y story starts with a gentleman named Franklin Hamilton, who used to work at the Ed Isaacson location. And Mr. Hamilton used to come to the local rec center in Roswell, in the neighborhood where I grew up. And he was, I think, maybe directing an after-school program there. And he wanted to take some of the older kids that weren't in the after school program, and he tried to put together a program in what he called the Black Achievers. And so it was a program for all of the young kids in the neighborhood to get together, that kind of middle school age where kids can kind of go off and do a lot of crazy stuff. He was able to get us together. He organized a lot of stuff, and it was my first introduction to the YMCA. And we would go up to the Ed Isaacson location. We would do different things up there. We would, hang out and just kind of explore and have some fun up there and get to know people up there. And that ultimately ended up turning into me having a career with the Y for a little while, directing in the after school program and working through their summer camp programs as well. So that's my Y story.
Well, I know you're an entrepreneur and you run a very successful barbershop, but we'd love to have you back in any capacity at the Y if you'd like to come back.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to find a way to pull it in. So.
Yeah. Please do. Please do. Any closing thoughts anyone else would like to share? This has been incredible, this conversation today.
It really has. Really has. I just want to say thank you.
You guys.
I truly want to say thank you. This was a very enlightening lesson.
Absolutely.
Well put.
Thank you guys.
We'd like to thank you too. Thank you so much for Caroline, your leadership at the Y, and for all of you in what you're doing there to make a huge difference in this community. Because I echo those thoughts about Juneteenth, especially that you're the ones that took the bull by the horns and made it happen. So thank you.
Well, I can only do it with everybody all of y'all. So, and everybody at all the other director staff at the Y, they've been wonderful and helpful and most supportive. So, and Alex Holloman, I have to say his name. I can't say it loud enough. He is truly my partner in crime in everything that I get away with and do. So yes, it's great. So thank you. Thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to say thank you all for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm so glad that you guys are willing to shed light and have this conversation. I'm sure your listeners and viewers are going to be happy to hear this and, just get insight into this conversation. And, one last thing I would say is I hope no one feels overwhelmed by the work that needs to be done. There's progress being made every day. As a kid, I always heard the older people around me say, many hands make light work. And so if we can all connect and come together and do this and not just put it on one person or a few people, then it makes the change that we all want to see within Forsyth possible.
Perfect
Beautifully
closing.
put.
Perfect closing.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Love it.
Thank you for listening to the Y Podcast. To continue the conversation or to find your closest Y, please connect with us at ymcaatlanta.org and sign up for our newsletter, Healthy Together.
Thank you.